Hello, I'm Mr. Milverton and I'm the subject leader for geography here at Preston School. In this short video, I'm going to just be talking you through how geography at GCSE works in terms of the structure of the course, an outline of the key topics that students need to know, some basic ideas about how the exam is structured and the types of questions that students will have in the GCSE exams, and also some revision tips and some resources that you might find useful to help your son or daughter at home. The geography course at Preston School follows the AQA GCSE geography course with a course code of 8035. And in this course, there are 4 overall core units. Unit 1 is living with the physical environment. Unit 2, challenges in the human environment. Unit 3, which is geographical applications. And the 4th unit is geographical skills, such as things like map skills, math skills that are embedded into those other 3 units. As you can see, there are 3 overall exams for the GCSE course. All of the exams take place at the end of year 11. So the first exam that students will sit is Unit 1, which is living with the physical environment. That focuses on physical geography, which is the geography of the natural world. That exam lasts 1 hour and 30 minutes and it accounts for 35% of the overall mark. The second exam is challenges in the human environment. So that looks at things to do with people and population and the effects that people have on the world. Again, that one is 1 hour and a half and 35% of the overall mark. The final exam is Unit 3, which is geographical applications. That's slightly shorter at 1 hour and 15 minutes and accounts for 30% of the overall mark. But as you can see, it's quite nicely spread out with roughly about 1/3 of the marks available for each of the exams. So looking at these 3 exams in a little bit more detail. The first exam, living with the physical environment, focuses on natural geography. So the first part of this topic, section A, is the challenge of natural hazards. So this looks at the way that natural hazards affect the world, the threats that they pose to populations, and some of the solutions we can use to try and reduce the damage that natural hazards do. It looks at tectonic hazards, so that's things like earthquakes and volcanoes and tsunamis, weather hazards such as tropical storms and flooding, and also climate change, the causes of climate change, the potential impacts on our planet, and the ways that we can reduce the impacts of climate change in the future. Section B of this exam focuses on the living world. This looks at ecosystems and the complex relationships that build up with food chains and food webs. It looks at tropical rainforests such as the Amazon in Brazil and the tropical rainforest in Malaysia, and also focuses on cold environments such as Svalbard, the most northerly inhabited place on Earth. The last section is physical landscapes in the UK, and this section focuses first on coastal landscapes, so looking at the way that coastlines are changing through erosion and deposition, sea defences in places such as Lyme Regis, and the second part looks at river landscapes, again looking at how river formations are formed, things like waterfalls and river meanders, and also looks at flooding and the ways that hard and soft engineering can reduce the impacts of flooding. All of these 3 topics encompass the physical environment exam, which is 35% of the final mark. The second exam is challenges in the human environment. So this focuses on human geography, the way that people and populations affect the planet. So the first unit, section A, looks at urban issues and challenges. This focuses on the way that urban populations are growing, the challenges and opportunities created by the growth of cities, and it has 3 in-depth case studies. The first one looks at Rio de Janeiro in Brazil as an example of an urban area in a low-income and newly emerging economy. The second case study looks at urban change in UK cities, the focus being Bristol and the opportunities and challenges that urban change is bringing there. And the last part of the topic looks at urban sustainability. How can cities of the future be better for the people and environments where they are located? And this looks at Freiburg, which is a city in southern Germany. Section B is the changing economic world. So this unit focuses on economic geography. It looks at development and quality of life. It looks at the development gap and ways that the development gap can be reduced through things like fair trade and investment and microfinance loans. It looks at cultural change in a low-income / newly emerging economy. And for this, we look in depth at Nigeria as a country which is undergoing rapid economic change. And the last part of this topic looks at the UK's economy. It focuses on the UK as a post-industrial country and looks in detail at things such as the UK's links with the wider world, UK's transport infrastructure, and the North-South divide. The very last part of this topic is section C, which is the challenge of resource management. This looks at the importance of food, water and energy resources in the UK and in the wider world, and we focus specifically on energy, looking at how energy demands are changing and the way that energy can be made more sustainable and renewable for future generations. The last of the three exams is called Geographical Applications, and this makes up 30% of the overall mark. This exam is slightly different to the first two exams and basically involves, firstly, an issue evaluation. This is where students are given a resource booklet in March of year 11, which involves some sort of critical thinking or problem solving and involves some sort of decision-making question at the end of the exam. They are given the resource booklet in advance, so they have a couple of weeks to study it in March, and then they're given a new resource booklet in the exam, which they can use to answer questions and also help them to make their final decision. The second part of this exam focuses on fieldwork. So students studying GCSE geography will undertake two fieldwork inquiries outside the classroom. The first one is a human geography field trip to Dorchester, looking at urban regeneration. And the second is a physical geographical field trip to Swanage, looking at coastal processes such as erosion and longshore drift. In the exam, the students are asked questions about their fieldwork, how they carried out their data collection, how they made sure their results were accurate, how they went through the processes of actually an inquiry. It also assesses fieldwork in an unfamiliar context, so they could be asked questions about fieldwork that they haven't carried out, but that they've learned about techniques for. So that might be looking at, for example, a river landscape, or might be looking at fieldwork in a large urban area such as Bristol or London. And these two units, issue evaluation and fieldwork, make up that final exam, Geographical Applications. In all three of these different exams, students will be asked a variety of different questions of different styles and different numbers of marks. So the first types of questions they will receive are shorter questions. These are often 1 or 2 mark questions. Sometimes there'll be definitions. Sometimes they'll be using a resource such as a map or a photo. And sometimes, as you can see here, they might even be multiple choice questions. Often some of these shorter questions will also involve geographical skills. So here, for example, are cartographic or map skills. Students are often given maps such as OS maps and asked to calculate distance or use the scale bar, do grid references, look at compass directions or map symbols. And those geographical skills are embedded into all three of the exams that students have. Another skill that can be tested in any of the three exams are maths or statistical skills. So students will often have questions where they're required to do things such as calculate the mean of a set of data, or fill in a graph, or draw a line of best fit. And those questions come in across all three exams. Students will also have longer exam questions, such as 4-mark questions, where they're asked to explain complex geographical ideas using geographical terminology. Or even longer 6-mark questions, where again, explaining ideas using keywords is very important, but also often students are given a figure, a map or a graph that they have to use and include in their answer as well. The most challenging questions in any of the exams are the 9-mark questions. These always involve some use of a case study, which is a detailed example that students will have looked at in lessons. That could be an example of a city, or in this case, an example of an earthquake or volcano. These questions require lots of detail, a very clear 4-part structure, and also have sometimes SPAG marks, which stands for spelling, punctuation and grammar, which are additional marks which include use of spellings and keywords and the use of structure for their questions. So following on from the exams, some key tips for success in the GCSE exams. First one is to use a variety of revision methods and techniques. Individual students will know what works best for them, but methods that have proven to work well in the past are using mind maps, using colour and pictures in those mind maps to bring out key ideas and topics, the use of flashcards to condense information and case studies, and really importantly, to practice past exam questions. The exam questions are available on the AQA website. They also have exam practice books that students can use, and I'm happy to provide students with past paper practice materials as well. Another big focus is the case studies. In geography, it's all about named examples. So for each topic, there are several really important case studies which are needed for the longer 6 and 9 mark questions. It's really important that students understand and know those case studies, including key facts and figures and other important bits of information that are related to those case studies. And as with any subject, early revision is vital. There is a huge amount of content to know for the 3 exams in geography, so making sure that students have a revision timetable, calendar and a structured revision plan, and that they are doing revision little and often in the build up to the final exams is really important. The Geography department has given students a revision calendar which gives them a breakdown of what they need to be revising and how to structure their revision in the run-up to the final exams in May and June. Students are obviously welcome as well to make their own revision calendars and their own revision timetables, but the key is that they are planning out what they are revising when over the course of the weeks and months in the run-up to those final exams. Another really important resource that's available for students are the revision guides and exam practice booklets. All students in Year 11 have been given an opportunity to buy the Oxford University Press AQA Geography Revision Guide and the exam practice book. These are both vital revision materials which contain all of the key information as well as practice exam questions and worked examples. If your son or daughter does not have a copy of either of these books, we still have some in the Geography department which they are welcome to purchase through the school, or they're available online on websites such as Amazon. Lastly, there are some other revision resources that are particularly important for Geography GCSE. All students have access to the online Caboodle website. This is has a digital version of the AQA GCSE Geography textbook, which we use in lessons, as well as a wealth of other resources, quizzes, practice questions, video clips and exam techniques. The Geography department actually pays an annual subscription for this website, and all students should have a username and password so they can log on. If any students don't have a username and password, they can speak to their geography teacher who will be able to provide them with that information. The BBC Bitesize website also has a whole area dedicated specifically to the AQA GCSE Geography course. It doesn't focus so much on case studies, but has lots of useful content and exam technique skills that might be important as well. Lastly, the Geography department is running intervention sessions and revision sessions after school on Thursdays during week 1. These are for targeted students, but if your son or daughter has not been asked to attend but wants to come along, they are welcome to do so. If they see their geography teacher, they can recommend which group 1, 2 or 3 would be most appropriate. As well as all of those resources, there is also a huge amount of other material available on Google Classroom for students, so please do make use of this. I am always available if people want to contact me, if they've got any other questions or queries at the email address shown on the screen, or you could contact your son or daughter's individual geography teacher if you have any questions or queries. So thank you for listening, and hopefully that's helpful in terms of preparing and making sure that your son or daughter is ready for those final exams in GCSE Geography. Thank you.